for one of my phones to do some work for me. I want to go back over some of my non-DNA evidence that America's Man of the Year was not my biological father. Okay? Here's some clues. Here's some clues that were just suggesting themselves to my mind, okay? One of the nicknames my mother had for me was age. You know, like the word age, age, how many years old you are? That was one of her nicknames. She'd say age, age, okay. Now, why did she do that? Because my biological father was my grandfather, my Italian grandfather, Nunno, and he was 63 when I was born. So she's associating me with age. You see what I mean? Now, here's some other circumstantial evidence that the Man of the Year was not, America's Man of the Year was not my biological father, okay? Every single time I tried to talk to my mother about women, every single time without fail, all the way up to when she passed away, I'd say, Mom, this or that about a woman, and she'd say, you'll have plenty of time for that. Now, why would she say that? She said that because I guess she figured since I was the son of a 63-year-old man that I would be coming around to being a father when I was 63. So there was no need to worry about women for a long time when I was young, like a teenager and a young man and all. I had plenty of time for that. And that was her answer every single time. Now, those are some of the main things from my mother. I mean, she's calling me age, do this or that. Because my nickname was actually AJ. No one ever called me Albert until I reached college. And I don't want to go into that because I want to talk about these circumstantial clues. But, you know, she called me age. Like if you said AJ together, you'd say age. Okay, so those are the main clues from my mother. Here's another one. My Italian grandfather, who was my biological father, I believe, he never said a word. He was monolithically silent. Let me try to remember the sentences that I remember from him. Okay, there was. I went up to visit him when I graduated from college. This was way out of the ordinary. None of his grandkids did that. I mean, I don't have to ask. I can guarantee you, none did that. Okay, I drove up there especially to see him, and he comes into the room where I'm in his he's got a 3-room house, bedroom, kitchen, drawing room, living room, whatever, a little room there. And I'm sitting in a chair there, and I feel free enough in his house to like open up the drawer of this desk in there, see photographs. I take them out and I'm looking at them. I wouldn't have done that in any other grandparents or relatives' house for that matter. I don't think I would have even done that in Aunt Rosemary's house. I would never have opened up a drawer in her house. Well, I did in his house. I'm looking at these pictures, and he comes in the room. There's 2 gigantic hands of his, and he's holding this little brochure from the United Mine Workers, and he says, "You want to read?" Okay, that's the most memorable sentence he ever said to me. Now, another time when I was staying with him for like a week, and he showed me how to like take apart a rifle. Like, you ever see the movie Forrest Gump? And when Forrest Gump gets in the army, he's got to take apart a rifle and put it back together, oil it and put it back together, okay? And the drill sergeant's saying, "My God, Gump, you took that gun apart already and put it back?" "Yes, sir." So, "My God, you're going to be a general. Do it again, Gump." So Gump takes it apart. Well, this Italian grandfather, he sits me down next to him down in his little cellar, and he takes his .22 rifle, which I had never seen before. He brought it out from somewhere, and he was showing me. He didn't talk. He's showing me. Okay, taking it apart, the stock out, and he's got this 3M oil this. Doesn't say anything. Take it apart, and then he's showing me how to put it back together. Okay, takes me out in his backyard to shoot bottles, like in a movie, right? And he puts a box of bullets next to me and goes off. Okay, now I'm sure I haven't asked anybody, but I'm 99.9999999% sure he didn't do this with any other grandchild. I could be corrected, but I doubt it. I doubt it. So, he's showing this preference for me, and of course, there's my first memory. It's one of my first memories in this life, really, where I was walking hand in hand with him in a little general store in Avella, which seemed huge to me because I was a tiny little child, maybe 2-3 years old. And I'm holding on to his gigantic hand, and we're walking quietly through that store. Well, I got to say, man, I don't think he did that with any other grandchild. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but without saying anything, he was saying to me, anything you want in here, you can have. He didn't say that, but that was the meaning I got as a little child. Anything I want in there, I can have. So he's indicating, what do you want? And so the first thing I said was, I want shoes like yours. And even as a little, 2 or 3 year old, I realized there was symbolic importance to what I was saying. I don't think I fully realized that when you're going to walk in somebody's shoes, what that means. But he seemed to realize, anyway, he didn't talk, and then he took me around. He got me some shoes, some dungarees, as they were called, like a white undershirt. And this was getting anything I wanted, but this was huge, right, to me, showing me his preference. Now, where were my brothers and sisters? At that time, I would have had an older sister, and I don't even remember her being there. Okay, and I don't remember anybody else being there for that matter, my mother or father. It was just me and him. I don't know how that happened, but that's the way it was. It was just me and him in that store. Now, I then have the memory of I'm taken by my mother to Glen Echo's Crystal Pool. Okay, Glen Echo was an amusement park in Glen Echo, Maryland, which is right there on the Potomac River and the C&O Canal. And I don't know, it's like 10 miles from Washington, D.C. Or from Foggy Bottom, Washington, D.C. Let's say the Foggy Bottom Metro today is like 10 miles from where that amusement park still is. Although it's no longer an amusement park, it's like a national park. And the carousel still runs there. It's a beautiful carousel. But, and then there's the archway for the Crystal Pool is still there, but there's no more Crystal Pool. Anyway, among people in Bethesda, the snooty Bethesda, swimming in that Crystal Pool was not something anybody wanted to do. What did they say about the Crystal Pool? That all those kids that went into that pool peed in the pool. You don't want to be in that pool. They're all peeing in that pool, So all the kids at Bethesda belong to country clubs and this kind of thing. They're not going to go there to the Crystal Pool. But Glen Echo was like a mythical place in my family because it's where my mother and father had their first date. And that first date was a romantic fantasy come true for my mother. So she told me about that date off and on for years in detail, how romantic it was for her. Until one of the last times she told me about that date, she said that the man of the year turned away from her suddenly and vomited in these bushes. And she said, well, I guess that was because alcohol caused that. She said, this is the first time she ever included this in her story, way late when I was like a young man, probably after my life had been shipwrecked by being declared crazy. And she tells me that she had never known anybody who drank. Her father didn't drink, no one in her family drank, so she didn't understand alcoholism or anything to do with this. And she said it was very peculiar that he vomited that way into the bushes. But she said, with hindsight, because by now when she was telling this story, he had passed away, I believe, and he had joined Alcoholics Anonymous at the end of his life. So she was telling me this was one of the first indications that he was an alcoholic. She didn't understand. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, she brings me to the Crystal Pool. She's got 5 kids. And I was around, what age? I think 7 or 8 years old. It wasn't long after we had moved into Bethesda from Forest Glen in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. as well, just as Bethesda is. Not like Bethesda, though. Bethesda is a very wealthy suburb of Washington, D.C. Forest Glen, Silver Spring, they're not. There are some very nice areas of Silver Spring, but okay, let me move on. So she's going to bring me alone with Aunt Rosemary, and who am I? I'm Aunt Rosemary's, like, favorite. Okay, and she's bringing Aunt Rosemary and me. So I go into the bowels of that Crystal Pool. It's like the lockers in there are like 1940s or 1930s. It's ancient in there when I go in to change into my bathing suit, you know. And I'm thinking, no wonder the kids out of Bethesda don't want to be here, you know. But I went into the pool, and I'm in there alone. I had brothers and sisters that by the age of 8, all my brothers and sisters were born. So even my little sister was alive by the time I'm 8. So maybe I was 9 years old. So where was she? She wasn't there either. Maybe she wasn't born yet. And so, but I had 2 younger brothers. Where were they? Maybe they were at a camp of some kind that I didn't go to. So anyway, where's my older sister? So she brings me alone, and then she and Aunt Rosemary have a talk of some kind while I'm in there in the pool alone. And then I come out of there, and what I'm saying is, what probably happened there was my mother was telling Aunt Rosemary that I was not the biological son of the man of the year. Now, how do I know that Aunt Rosemary did know that? Well, at the end of Aunt Rosemary's life, I was mowing her lawn each week. Now, I had been declared to be crazy, right? And so I was totally shipwrecked, but I was maintaining touch with Aunt Rosemary, mowing her lawn and maintaining contact with her. Okay, Uncle Fred had been murdered in 1990. Well, I still went on with my relationship with Aunt Rosemary. And Aunt Rosemary had been a Catholic nun for 7 years. And she had stopped being a nun so she wouldn't be a burden on the church, because she had what she called women's troubles. That's some kind of problem with her monthly cycle. Okay, I'm not sure. She had a malformed uterus or something. I don't know the details. She had women's troubles. So she dropped out of being a nun, but she went on with her close relationship with the Catholic Church, and she taught in a very affluent area's main Catholic school up there in Northwest Washington, D.C., in the area called Chevy Chase, which is an affluent area of Washington, D.C., and she taught at this school for over 50 years and was a beloved and prized teacher. Okay? quickly, she told me this one story. Before I tell what she told me, what the indication that my mother had told her that the man of the year was my biological father. Here's the kind of person Aunt Rosemary was. She said she was meeting with some parents one time with, I guess it's some kind of back to school night, and just the little boy or something was there, and Aunt Rosemary said to him, do something around and put some elbow grease into it, okay? And so a few minutes later, the parents and Aunt Rosemary look over the child and say, well, he wasn't doing anything. He said, well, what's wrong? And he says, I can't find the elbow grease. So, okay, that's one of the stories she told me. Okay, now, this is what happens. This is one of the last conversations I had with her. She says to me one night, she starts telling me about what an evil man the man of the year was and how evil his mother was, okay? And I was like, oh my God, this is the only person in the world who's ever shared with me an appreciation for what an evil devil this man was, and his mother too. She was a witch. And I couldn't believe it. Here's somebody for the first time in my life telling me that that's what she thought of these two. And I'm saying, yeah. And we're talking, and she's confirming everything I knew to be true about the man of the year. She's saying, yeah, your father says he was your best friend for the first 5 seconds you were together with him. And after that, he was your worst enemy. I was saying, that's exactly how he was. And we were talking this way. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. It's the first time in my life I ever had confirmation that this guy was just as evil as I knew he was. And there was Aunt Rosemary agreeing 100%. So years and years I think about that. Aunt Rosemary's passed away, and I start thinking, when I start putting everything together as an old man, starting at the age of around 65, roughly 5 years ago, I start putting everything together, and I'm thinking, hey, one of the reasons I never criticized the man of the year to others was the commandment that you should honor your father and mother. You are to honor your father and mother. So I never criticized the man of the year because of that commandment to anyone. Anyone in the mental prison system or anyone anywhere. Growing up, friends, no matter what abuses I was suffering from him, I never criticized because the commandment was you were to honor your father and mother. So if I criticized the man of the year, it would be dishonoring him. So I'm thinking Aunt Rosemary was a nun, and listen, she was not a talkative person, and she was somebody who went by the book. Write down the letter of the law by the book, okay? Okay? She did everything by the book. So she would not have broken one of the 10 commandments, which is honor your father and mother. If she had been encouraging me to dishonor that father the way that conversation did, she would have been breaking one of the 10 commandments. This was her way of telling me at the end of her life that that man was not my father. This was her way of doing it. Okay? So there's some things I'm thinking about. And so I don't need the DNA evidence on this. I don't. I'm absolutely sure that I'm right. And I got to say that because secret policing agencies have a problem with me, why? Because they were connected up somehow. The man of the year might have been an undercover agent for the secret police of the United States. He might have been. I don't know. He had a friend who was in the CIA. So he himself might have been an agent himself. I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot I can talk to related to that, and I'm going to leave that out. But I got to say that that man of the year, he always seemed to know exactly where I was at all times. How did he know? He was connected up with the secret police of the United States, and they had committed some crimes the American public does not know they've committed, and they want to keep those covered up. Okay? And so I'm a potential witness against them. So what have they been doing? They've been wrecking my life as a result. And they've made sure that I'm considered to be crazy, so no one's going to believe a word out of my mouth. It's that serious. It's been life-threatening to me. This is the truth. Whether people want to believe this or not, the truth will eventually come out. As Shakespeare said, foul deeds will rise, though all the earth o'erwhelm them to men's eyes. Just made a video on the circumstantial evidence I have that America's Man of the Year was not my biological father. My Italian grandfather was. That would have made America's Man of the Year my half-brother. Ooh. Oh, God. Oh. Okay, provided he really was Nuno's son, he might not have been. And that might have been one of the reasons why America's Man of the Year hated that grandfather with such hatred. The way I hate him. Well, he was not my biological father and he abused me severely, so I hate him. Well, he hated his father, so maybe he wasn't even Nuno's son. I mean, I don't know. He might not have been. So then he wasn't my half-brother. He wasn't related to me at all. Oh, God. That monstrous man. Your favorite out there in America. The guy you loved so much. He was so funny. In fact, the first woman I kissed, she kissed me. Why? She liked him. I don't know if I should go into that, but he was at my last basketball game of the season, my senior year. And he was there. I didn't know he was going to be there, and I didn't know he was there. And afterward, after the last game of the season, the team went out, and we did a little drinking. For the first time, I drank some wine, and I got inebriated, and this girl ended up on my lap, this Jewish girl. And I kissed her that night. It was my first kiss. I was 18 years old. And she's telling me that she likes me because during the game, she sat next to my father. And he was so funny. And when I heard that, it was like, well, that's it this relationship didn't go anywhere because once I heard that she liked this monstrous man had been abusing me, I couldn't go on with the relationship, you know. But this is the first girl I kissed. Somebody who liked him. Because no women had anything to do with me. I've talked about that. But now this woman appears on my lap. She's an attractive Jewish girl. What is this? And I find out, what is this? She likes the Man of the Year who'd been, as I become conscious later, he's been severely abusing me sexually. And that's the first girl I kissed. Okay, well, the whole reason for the videotape I just made, I left out what I wanted to say, was another main clue for why my Italian grandfather was my actual father, okay? I was saying at the beginning of that video that Italian grandfather was virtually silent. He said nothing. And I said, here's one of the only sentences he ever spoke to me. He said, "You want to read?" Okay? I'm sure he's trying to tell me something very important, symbolically, by the way he presented that miner's pamphlet to me when I went up to visit him. I've talked about that too, but let me leave that out. Okay? I was talking about some things my mother said to me over the years, like she called me age, which is like an allusion to the grandfather who was 63 when I was born, okay? So she's often calling me age. And as I said, every time I try to talk to her about women, you'll have plenty of time for the, hey, I'm 25 years old. You'll have plenty of time for that. I guess she figured I was going to be like him. And I'm turning out that way, right? Beshuasi, you and me, are we going to have a child together? Am I allowed to ask that? Can I ask that of any woman? Never mind you. I'm a single man. When I converted to Judaism, The rabbi told me, you are now a single man. Okay? So if I have a relationship with a woman, am I going to want a child? I shouldn't think about that. Why not? There are almost no children being born in Japan or Korea. The population growth down is almost zero. This is a good thing. They're doing things right. It's inappropriate to talk about such things, and nobody's being born. They have sexless marriages over there. Young people are married and they're not having sex. So this is inappropriate. I don't think so. I think this world is just as crazy as it said I was. It's crazier. Okay, now, let me get back to what my mother said that indicates to me that she did have sex with my grandfather. Okay? Look, this man said nothing. And every year we visited the grandfather for like 2 hours on one day a year. That was all. And my mother was not allowed to go on these visits. I'm phrasing it that way. The way I would phrase it if I wasn't aware that something was going on, I'd say, my mother never went on these visits. Well, why didn't she go? Why didn't she go? Well, you figure that out, okay? We only visited this man on one day a year for a few hours, and my mother did not go on the visits, ever. Just the father and the children. Okay, now here's something she tells me that the grandfather told her. Grandfather told her, well, 50 cents a nice gal. Now, where did all that come from? The man never said a word. I never saw him say a word to my mother, in fact. He visited us when I was 12, and I spent the entire time by his side. I loved the guy, right? And we were side by side the entire time he was there, and he never talked with anybody, not even me. He taught me how to play the card game 21 without saying a word. Not a word, okay? He has the cards. He's going to point to this or that. It was a very warm, happy type relationship I had with him without words. Okay? This is a wonderful man. I love being near him. It's like the vibe is just warmth and love, and everything is so kind and considerate. And it's so cool to be with this guy. Okay, so where does this come from? Well, 50 cents a nice gala. She got all that how? That's probably what he said to her when they were going to have sex. She told me some other things about this too. It's too embarrassed to say them. I'm not going to say them. Okay, it's too embarrassing. I'm too private. She told me about that he tried to have sex with her, and the way she said it was, here's an example of the way she said it. If you watch the movie, The Sound of Music, it's at the point where the Captain Von Trapp is going to tell his kids that he's decided to get married, okay? So he's standing behind this Baroness, okay? And he puts his hands on his shoulder. He says, now, you're not going to have a governess anymore. We're not? They're saying, he says, no. He said, we talked about it last night. He doesn't say this woman's name. He never says, Baroness so-and-so and I are going to get... No, he says, we talked about it last night and we decided, but he never says her name. So the next thing you know what happens? He breaks up with her and he has Maria that he proposes to. And that's going to be the mother. So look, although people think that there's nothing there, I'm saying there is. And so when my mother tells me about the sexual stuff going on between her and the grandfather, the way she finishes up the story, it's like, well, they had sex. The way she told the story, I'm not going to say it. I'm too shy and embarrassed by it. But what she told me, along with that little song, she had the sex with him, and that's how I was conceived. Now, the other night I was thinking to myself, okay, well, let me not go on with this, but my parents were so poor, okay, during my first, 5 years of life, that one of the places we lived in, there's now a Walmart standing over the apartment building that's been torn down. And that apartment building is where I had my first conscious memory in this life. And it happened to have been what I'm saying is a sexual tryst between my mother and some man. But it wasn't my grandfather, it was some other man. This is my first memory in life. Now, I just want to say, my parents were so poor that my mother told me at this apartment they lived in, near the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Military Road, where there's a Walmart now, she said she killed 7 mice a night in traps and flushed them down the toilet. That's what this place was like. And she said the roaches were so big in that place that they would rear up when you're going up the steps and hiss at you. She said it was awful. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe that little song about 50 cents is because she borrowed some money from the grandfather to help her and the man of the year pay rent or something. And as a result, she had sex with him. Now, for people who know about these kind of things happen. Read Norman Mailer's book on Gary Gilmore, The Executioner Song. And this really Hollywood star, beautiful girlfriend of Gary Gilmore's, she was poor, and so what did she do? She often banged the manager of the grocery store where she got groceries, so she would get those groceries for free. That's what she did. And well, this is putting me into an emotional blackout. Let me put this on pause a second. To conclude about the money thing, okay? My mother told me one time she was out with the man of the year when they were getting to know each other, dating and all. And she said they were at a little restaurant somewhere, and the man of the year told her he didn't have any money to pay the bill. Okay, or even help. So my mother paid the bill. She was trying to tell me that that's how poor they were. Okay, so it's possible, like I say, that the sex she had with the grandfather might have been because she needed to borrow some money from him, and that's what happened. Bye for now. Is that you, Chris? And we want justice.